Okay, fantastic. Thank you for taking a seat. And I'm really delighted to be chairing this final panel session, which is focusing on what impact this network and networks like it can have on individual people and our careers. And certainly for myself, I've been incredibly lucky to be involved in networks like this one, and it's totally changed my career. So I'm really happy that we can talk about this subject today. So I'm going to ask our wonderful panel to introduce themselves one by one as they each give a 5-minute summary of how this impact might have felt for them. And then I'm going to open it up, after 20 minutes of that, I'm going to open it up to use these sheets. You should all have one of these on your desks. And I'm going to give you 5 minutes on your own just to fill in this sheet, and then we'll open it up for a more of a discussion before closing out after an hour. So I'm just going to now pass straight on. I'm really excited about this panel. I'm really grateful to you for coming here to open up about your experiences and your career and networks and how they've impacted you. So Zainab, thank you very much for starting us off.
Thank you very much, Clay. So my name is Zainab. I'm a research scientist, social science at Rothamsted Research, and also the carbon financing champion for the AFN Network. And most of you must have known or met me one way or the other. So for me, my career journey till date has been that my first degree was in agricultural economics. Then I moved on to do masters in rural development. Then back to the UK through the Commonwealth Scholarship for my PhD, where I also did massively some research in sub-Saharan Africa on drought-tolerant maize varieties. And so post-PhD, I joined Rothamsted Research, and it was like starting as an early career researcher and finding my steps and terrain in the UK research system. So joining the AFN Network was like joining as, someone just getting to know about the UK research landscape. And it was quite new for me because then I have to understand, the terrain, the research. So the AFN Network Plus kind of provide that platform for me. At that point, my line manager was a champion and then encouraged me to join the network, which I did. And joining the network was made a lot of impact or difference to me. For every senior researcher in the room today, you will agree with me that starting as an early career researcher is not easy, because then, you have to get funding, you have to network, you have to do a lot of things. So the AFN Network provided that platform for me. First, joining as the ECR board and meeting great minds and, exploring several opportunities. And then I got to talk to a lot of people, then also collaborate on some, research papers. But that was not all, you need to still write grants and do a lot of stuff, and you need to talk to people. So the AFN Network Crucible program was like the selling point, was like the point for me where I felt real change. So at the Crucible, there were lots of young early career researchers, mid-level, senior level, and it was more like a mentorship program, and we just have to go around, talk about ideas. And live, I saw how ideas have been made, created. People had great ideas. I met great teams. I met Rachel, who was a senior lecturer then at Glasgow University, and I also met Joanna Ferreira. So we were just going around and met Rachel talking about collective insurance, which is a good mechanism, and that was how the idea started. I saw with my eyes how different ideas were developed in that room that day, and I was quite excited, and we presented. It's more like you're getting to pitch a business to some panel. And somehow we got the funding, and it was really, really exciting for me to see, bringing the project alive and, doing a lot of things. So the AFN gave me that. the AFN gave me resources, a network of people that I could, go to and talk to about, different opportunities. And right up until now, when I, after winning the funding and also becoming a champion, I've learned quite a lot. And I must say something, it also taught me a lot of skills like stakeholder engagement, navigating the UK terrain. I'll tell you that I've traveled to more cities today, more rural areas in the UK to meet farmers, meet and talk to farmers was through the AFN network. So working with the champion in year one, about 3 champions, and of which, they organized some workshops to talk to farmers about net zero. And I was, part of the team that organized the workshop event at Rothamsted and the one at Bigton, across Exeter with, dairy farmers and arable farmers. And that single event helped me during my scoping study grants to successfully organize workshops and connect with people. So I would say AFN gave me a lot of things, mentorship, kind of helped me to, to pedal the system to becoming a very good, ECR researcher. And I would say I've gained quite massively, and I would love to say thank you very much to the team.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Wonderful. Thank you. Follow that, Dominic. Yeah.
Or do I need to hold this?
No, you've got the mic.
Okay. What was the question again?
The question, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, so the question is, how have networks like this one or this particular network, how has that impacted on your career? And any advice you would give to people about how they can best use networks to advance their career?
Okay, and I might have read it wrong, but I kind of thought that it was also around like what's happened over the past year. So I thought when I was thinking about it, I was thinking like a lot can happen in a year. So, and the AFN network has been like fundamental in that for me. So it was at the Big Tent event, I think last year, that I met Professor Emma Rowe, who had the vision to give me a job and a PhD opportunity. So that's massive for me, and so AFN is game changing in that. So I'm proud to say I'm now a research fellow at the University of Southampton. Thank you. And I don't know, thank you. And I don't know if anyone remembers, but I was on a EDI panel last year, and I don't know, you might remember how nervous I was and stuff. Hopefully I've grown a little bit in confidence since then. But last year, I was on benefits. And last year, I was, coming from deep council estate poverty. And no matter what anyone tells you, I'm still in the same council estate blocks, but thankfully, I'm rid of the chains of the benefit system. And I said, so it can be coming to spaces with professionals when you're from the background I'm from and others like me. It's you got to kind of remember that. I guess both of us, it's an exchange, but I'm navigating new territory. So hopefully, but AFN's had a great approach to that. As I was reminded yesterday with some conversations I had. But also in my environment, and just to name drop, I was thinking I said to Jamie Oliver yesterday, but I said to him, I was in my estate, you can get mango vodka and you can get blueberry vapes. But even if you had £1 million, you couldn't get a mango or a blueberry because my estate is a food desert in the Garden of England. And so, I guess I'll use this platform to say, and I've never said it before, so I'll do it now. The shop on my estate, so it only sells the lowest quality of food and nothing fresh. But I come up with an idea, and I've now got political backing, and hopefully Angelina and Neil and Jez, and also Jamie Oliver might be backing it as well. But to take over my estate shop and have it through where farmers I've connected with have already offered, who I met kind of some through the AFN network and some through Oxford Farming Conference, are going to help me get fresh produce to the shop once we get the lease. And MP for School Food is strongly backing it and has written a letter to the co-op to ask them politely to give it to me. That was amazing. And so I heard a lot, and the first time I heard it was at the AFN was around farm to fork, which is a kind of system and a way of thinking. So my project, that I really welcome any support and funding and stuff, and I have a GoFundMe, if you can even put in £1, is called Estate to Plate. So, and I've done a logo, and it's going to be exciting, and hopefully, because I'm here speaking for, my neighbours and the most deprived communities and council estate communities, especially up and down the country. So a couple, and if there's time, a couple of awkward moments I'll just quickly say is that just because you are, and this is not personal, but just I hope will invite new ways of thinking and awareness. No matter how academically qualified you are, that doesn't mean, me, my neighbours, especially my daughter, like we're not your case study. So that's something I would like a little bit of a critical reflection around. And so at an AFN event, and snobbery exists outside these networks, but I hope to raise some awareness. I was asked, what do you do? And I said, I'm a council estate writer and speaker. And they said, what's that and why are you here? So I think it's only good vibes today, good vibes only, but I think that there needs to be some acknowledgement of that challenge. And I think it's strength to the network that, on this panel and being able to discuss it. So I would say that AFN as a network has been groundbreaking in including a voice of the poor. And I'll leave it there.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dominic. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dominic. Saher.
It is extra majorly mega unfair to be going after Dominic, but first of all, thank you very much for the space, and thank you, Sarah and the team, for choosing me for this. Very brief on where I've come from. So I'm from Pakistan. My career has spanned from earth sciences, so very geology and geophysics, because rocks are very relaxing, all the way through to geography and food systems, where you have to talk to lots of people, which can be deeply stressful and anxiety-inducing. But it has been a very, very rewarding journey. Very stressful and difficult, but I'm really glad for all the help and support I've received along the way. And the network has been a major part of that. So I think I've now been with the network since the beginning. So I was part of the first ECR board, where I had the pleasure of meeting Zainab and a few others who I think might be in the room. And then I was the year 2 champion for healthy and sustainable diets. And what I'm especially grateful for the network has been the time and space, which, like Zainab mentioned, as an ECR is very, very, very rare commodity indeed, to explore some of the things that have been bothering me a lot. And if you've met me probably even for 5 minutes, you know that I'm slightly obsessed with the missing middle of the food system, and which is not to say that the rest of it does not matter. It is just that if we want to be having the kind of benefit and change that we need for the farmers and consumers and policymakers that tend to be in the conversation more, those benefits cannot travel if the rest of the system is not part of that conversation. So for all the excellent work that the network and the 2,800 strong community is doing, that only works if there is integration across the board. So that's essentially the time that I've spent my champion time doing. And a shout out to all the year 2 champions. There's not that many of us here, but it was such a privilege and a pleasure to be part of those conversations. And it's been really helpful to know what everyone else is thinking of, and that sounds, in some ways quite obvious, but it's not, because if you are an academic, you do end up talking to the same types of people, and I think there's a lot of us in the room who might be a bit frustrated on how there's nothing new in the food system space anymore, at least from the science element of it. I see you, Kezia. But I think it is because of networks and engagements like this where we can find what that looks like in a way that actually benefits as many people as possible. And that requires us not only talking to each other, but having that core empathy. So the compassion of, we talk about stakeholders and actors and activities and outcomes, but they're all affecting people and animals and all the non-human entities out there. So I think what I would really like more to see is the empathy coming out and that compassion. And I don't know how much academics can contribute to that, but I'm definitely up for trying. So one, thank you very much for the AFN for the time and space and for me to be asking some of those difficult questions, which I don't think can or have been answered. But I think anything that we can do that can have a bit more radical change and encourages us to be more brave, because I think what the field, and this very much is a comment on the science and academic side of it, is that we are probably lacking in critical imagination and courage to try something different. We talk a lot about barriers, but is that still relevant if we're still doing the same things over and over again and talking about the same barriers and not trying something different? Even if it upsets some people, but we have to take everyone with us on the journey. So yeah, that's essentially where I want to come from. Again, it's a terrible position to be between Dominic and India, but I'm grateful for the space this has brought me. And what I would encourage everyone in the room is that all the conversations I've had has been people who are curious about what people are doing. So please have as many conversations as you can, because that is the first beginning to then do cool, amazing things. So I'll stop there.
Thank you very much. Go ahead. Amazing. Thank you, Saher.
So you said you had a tough act to follow. I also had a pretty tough act to follow. So hello, everyone who hasn't met me yet. I'm India. I was one of the Year 1 champions in the AFN Network, and at the moment I am working at an organisation called the Climate Bonds Initiative, doing what is essentially my dream job, which is creating a framework for sustainable investments into different areas of agri-food. So to do this, I've been leading a group of around about 15 academics to create this framework that has transition pathways. For my criteria specifically, it's in alternative proteins, but we have them for livestock and crops, deforestation and conversion-free sourcing, and the food value chain, so all very relevant here. But this is something that I wouldn't have been able to do even slightly if it hadn't have been for networks like the AFN, and also for Take a Bite Out of Climate Change. So if you zoom back 10 years ago, which is when I started my career in agri-food, I was working in communications and education around agri-food systems. And it wasn't until 2019, I think it was, that I met Saher at Take a Bite Out of Climate Change. And she opened my eyes to the amazing world of research in this area. And it was a real, wow, this is a job that you can do moment. I didn't realise I could enjoy a week of work as much as I enjoyed that week. And then I had to do a big gear shift into research. So decided to take up a master's in food policy and start to engage with more sort of research-related projects. But through the AFN network, I gained a lot of the skills that are actually necessary to be doing this type of work. Because I don't have a PhD, it can be quite challenging to get research-focused roles, particularly ones where you're managing much more senior researchers. 3 of the researchers in the team I've been working in are IPCC scientists. Joseph Paul from Oxford is part of our team. So that's quite a scary thing to be doing if you don't have a PhD. And joining the AFN network kind of got me used to that frightening thing. When I joined, all the other champions had PhDs. I think there were 9 of us. They were all quite senior academics. And there was me from industry, communications, innovation, sort of stuck in there. And the AFN network was incredibly encouraging, doing a lot of sort of hand-holding to let me know that my ideas were still worthwhile and useful. And I think that the sort of research that we did and the projects that we ran throughout that year did add value to the network, and I'm still here today. I'm still being invited back, so that seems like it's true. But that critical experience and that confidence and that ability to learn how to manage stakeholders with these sort of huge wealths of knowledge, and can be quite intimidating as more senior than you, has been critical for me getting what is essentially my dream job now. So that's a little bit about these networks, how they can open your eyes and build your confidence.
Really indebted to you all for sharing those experiences, and I learned a lot from you all, even in those bits that we just heard. And I think, what's really striking me about what you're all saying is about having a safe space, maybe to grow and to share openly, and where different perspectives are valued, and the value of different experiences that we're all bringing to the table. But I think really what I'd like to do now is to open this up for you all to just spend 5 minutes reflecting for yourselves. It may be a completely different story for you. There may be criticisms, or there may be things you'd like to have seen which didn't happen. So we're gonna come back to you all at the end, but I'm really grateful for you sharing so openly of your experiences. And hopefully you've all got one of these. If you haven't got one of these, can you steal one from another table, preferably not that's already owned by someone else. So hands up if you don't have one of these colourful sheets with some questions on. You don't have one, I shall give you mine in a minute. You've already done yours, you've done your homework, so you've just... brilliant, but I'll send this down the table as well. So hopefully you've all got one of these, and we're gonna just have 5 minutes of silence, where really what we want you to do is to spend a few moments thinking, has the AFN had an impact on you, on your career? And we're looking for you to circle one of these emojis. We've got a very unhappy emoji, which is red with a sort of crying face, I think. We've got a sad emoji, which is pink. We've got a neutral one, and we've got a smiley blue one, and then an ecstatic green one at the end there. The plus sign is above the ecstatic one. Not giving you any hints on what to put, because we really want to know your actual experience. This is not going anywhere apart from, for our internal consumption, we will write a report to the funding agency at some point, but we really actually want to know, how has this network impacted on you? And if you've got any examples, we'd really love to hear of what we can do more of, or what people can do better, and that's to share with other networks as well about best practice. And there's a second box here, which is asking, are you a member of other networks or groups in your professional or your personal life? What do you value about groups that bring people together? Is there something that we can learn from the other groups that you're involved in? And if you're happy for us to follow up with you afterwards about your answers, then please do add your name and email address to the bottom. I'm going to stop talking for 5 minutes while you fill that in, and then we're going to invite comments from the floor if anybody wants to share anything that they've written down. And where this is taking quite a big risk, because we might just have silence for the next 30 minutes. But I'm just going to open up in case anybody from the floor would like to say anything. Could be negative, could be positive, could be telling us about a different network and what great things they've done and what we can learn. So I'm just going to see if anybody want to start us off. Thank you very much, Marcus, at the front here.
I have to confess, I just had a look at the website as well before I say this. One thing that concerns me is we don't seem to have people from what you might call the wider agricultural industries present. So there's nobody from the seed breeders, there's nobody from the input producers, here today. I mean, there's one or two people I know very well that are involved in that area of research. I could go on, big list. Seems to me that they're very much on the outside of this, and yet we need them to decarbonise. So why are they not here?
And so when you say seed breeders, you say seed breeders?
Seed breeders, fertiliser manufacturers, animal feed producers. So they're all part of a thing called the Ag Industries Confederation that's based in Peterborough.
Brilliant. And I could hear some ripple of applause coming when you said that. So anybody agree with that? Thank you very much for raising that. That's a great point. Thank you. Excellent. We've got somebody there in the jacket, thank you.
Just following on from that point, I think there's not enough farmers here. We're talking about them and about what we need from them and about what they have to do. And I run a research agency where we have a farming community that we use for research, and we know what they're saying, and it's not lining up with a lot of these industry conferences that aren't involving farmers. And I think understanding the challenges in farming at the moment, there's not enough depth and understanding what affects who, where, and why to be able to make this a conversation that is going to be useful across the entire agri-food supply chain.
Thank you. Yeah, I was at the DEFRA Agriculture Roadmap meeting last week. I was the only academic in the room. It was entirely farmers, and it really was an eye-opener for me to hear. We agreed on everything, until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then they asked, what do you think a plate of food should look like in 2050? And the farmers put, a big piece of steak on it and so on. And we had quite an interesting, quite a robust conversation about that, which was really eye-opening for me in the different ways that people look at this. But I'm just going to take another risk here, because I know that there are people involved in farming in the room, but I'm not sure how many. So hands up if you're involved in farming in the room here. Okay, so that's very helpful. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Any other comments on that? Because we definitely need to do more of that. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you at the back there.
One of the things that I'm noticing as we're talking about what the potential solutions are, a lot of the time we kind of are talking about money, we kind of are talking about economics, but we're not talking about money and we're not talking about economics, because we know why DEFRA aren't spending more on paying more for, because they haven't got any money. So one of the things for me to start to think through, and maybe we need more economists in the room, is if we're actually, we kind of know what some of the solutions are, and we also kind of know why some of them aren't happening. And a lot of what we're talking about comes down to money. So if we're going to get to some of these solutions, my answer to everything is normally you kind of track it back until you find yourself saying, oh yeah, we just need to rethink capitalism, don't we? So how are we going to do this? If we get really clear plans for this is what needs to happen for the future to be good, then where are the people? Where's the next step where we can bring in things like donut economics and other, new innovative economic strategies that say actually all of the problems are about how we imagine our economy and how we talk about wealth and how we're distributing. That's not really a question, it was just a bit of a rant, but...
Excellent, yeah. No, thank you. Yeah, that's a great point and obviously resonates. So really sort of talking about the elephants in the room and providing a space to have more braver conversations, which are a bit left field maybe in the sort of traditional way of talking, but actually are really important and necessary. I did notice a couple of unconference proposals on the board there as well on sort of elephants in the room, that kind of thing. So I hope that we do have some space for that this afternoon, but that's a great point. We could do more of that. Thank you very much. Anyone else want to share how the AFN might have impacted on them, or other networks might have done well on things? Yeah, Marilla. I would just wait for the microphone if you don't mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Talking of people who we might not have in the room, I've got a question for Saher. Could you elaborate on what the missing middle is, please?
Very happily. How much time do I have? Okay. So very brief, the basic level of missing middle is people between the farmers and the consumers, so in the supply chain, so the wholesalers, logistics people, distributors, storage people, all of those. But there's also the missing middle of transformation itself. So the gap between research findings and then what actually gets done, and I don't mean policy. And then also the gaps between, let's say, the national level policy, institutional policies, and then everything that happens on the ground. So in geography, we have the local trap, where you have these grand, big, amazing frameworks and theories, and then we're proving them using a super micro level case study. And then again, there's that big governance and activity and transformation and practice gap in the middle. So missing middle means all of those things, but in terms of people who are in the room and in the community, I'm meaning more those middle bits and everyone who's around the farming, so the seed producers, everyone else who's the people we don't necessarily hear about. And that's also tied with the money point, because usually the people who are not in the room have all of the money and the power. And we can talk all we want about stakeholder collaboration, but no one is going to give up the power they already have. That's just not going to happen. So I think like in the food system space, we have to have that big boundary discussion as well, of like, we can't fix the food system if we're also not dealing with the uncomfortable questions around the economic system, the social system, the funding around housing, employment, livelihoods. And if we don't address that, everything else we're doing in this system, as bounded by the food system, is tinkering around the edges, and none of the transformational change will happen. And that is probably me committing reputational suicide on stage. So, sorry.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much. At the back, yeah.
Okay. I'm Alex Adekombi, University of Reading. I want to talk about how AFN Network have impacted me, and also could this network and others could be of benefit to others. My first suggestion before my own testimony is that as we are increasing the awareness among farmers of such network as this, I think we should also increase participation of people in parliament who have oversight around things on agri-food during our panel discussions. I think that will also be of importance. So having said that, I want to really appreciate the opportunity to join the AFN Network, especially the Crucible event held at Bristol. During the Crucible event, I was able to form form networks and collaborations with other colleagues that does what the kind of research that I do. One of the things that I've generated was we were able to write a research grant proposal that brought together 2 universities and 4 businesses on agri-food. So I really appreciate the opportunity, especially when you are developing ideas together with others. I've done that myself as a researcher. You generate idea to write proposal, yes. The highest I've gone is to collaborate, to generate such idea with one other person to write proposal and things, but AFN Crucible project afforded me the opportunity to do it with many more people. So I really want to appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. Fantastic. Brilliant. Oh, yes, do you want to add anything? And then we'll go to you. Thank you.
Quickly, so I don't know who came up with the Crucible event idea in the team, but whoever came up with that idea did a very good job with that, because it's not easy to collaborate and, you want to discuss about an idea, but then that room comes with, powerful ideas and great people that you meet, and you see different people with different ideas. I just think that a lot might not get funded at that point, but I know a lot of people went home with lots of different ideas, something to write, something to say, oh, this is how I want to contribute to solving the problem of the UK food system. And I just want to say thank you again. I think the Crucible really impacts a lot of people who might not be here, but people who are at the event can always talk about it.
Do you want to add to that, Dominic? Yeah. Sorry, we will come back to you in a second. Did you want to?
Okay. I feel a responsibility to speak about people who aren't in the room. I'll just quickly say 2 things. So one, before I was a member of the network, the amazing Jez and Neil Ward reached out to me and invited me to an event. I forget the name of it, forgive me, but it was in the poshest, I grew up in London, but poshest area of London I've ever been to. And I wouldn't have been able to attend that event had they not, and I hope I'm not getting anyone in trouble, but had they not paid for my train fare and my hotel. When you're surviving, and feeding your kid on £70 a week, you can't pay for those sort of things. So I wouldn't have even been in the room, let alone been here today. And I will add on a broader point, like, believe it or not, I get asked to speak by different organizations, universities, and charities. Dominic, can you come to our event and speak about your lived experience of poverty or food insecurity or council estates? And then when sometimes, more than I'd like to say, but when I say or try to ask about remuneration, then the tone of the conversation can change. And I think that's deeply, deeply ethically problematic. If you're inviting someone to speak about and provide insights into poverty and you're not willing to pay them, there's something, there's a real lack of balance there. And just on the system point, I'll just quickly say, and it's credit to Damien May, who opened my eyes to it, but everyone's talking about this food system approach, but the food system is a subsystem of the system. So we can't talk about food, the food system, as if it's like exists outside of poverty. And yeah, I would say that the main missing, I hope I'm doing my best to represent, but a real missing component is those who are actually like my neighbors and my community, their voices, the people who are actually experiencing the inequality of food insecurity. So, yeah, I would say that that is a key component of people that need to be in the room.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Hannah Davison, Northumberland County Council. I ask a lot of questions at events. Really, really enjoyed this as my first Big Tent, and it's been absolutely brilliant. Everyone approaches things with open-mindedness and curiosity, which I really appreciate and don't always get when I go to other public sector events. I just wanted to kind of speak again to that kind of who's not in the room. I think when I look down the attendee list, we're the only local authority. Shout up if there is someone here and I've missed them. You know, we talk a lot about these sort of cross-sectional things, public health, resilience. I'll add in other things like risk assessments, disaster response, all functions that local authorities typically take on. We touch people's lives in a myriad of ways, from adult social care, child social care, across all of these things, all the way to taking out bins, which people always feel strongly about. So I would just really want a call for everyone in the room, really, not just even myself coming from a local authority, to reach out to your local authority if you already work with them in other aspects. Are there others within the organisations that can be reached? We're not just delivering services for residents, we also have obviously large purchasing power, which public sector procurement ties into. And I've found so many good ideas just from being here the past 2 days that I will take back to my organisation and I'll try and implement. People often don't associate councils with innovation, but we do try. And if anyone can be resourceful on constrained budgets, it's definitely a local authority. So I'd very much I'll go away and I'll tell my colleagues that I'd like them to start signing up where possible, because whether it's a public health role, whether it's planning policy, I think we need this systems thinking to be embedded across organisational cultures. And I think the AFN is a brilliant way to do that. I've found all the resources, newsletters, webinars, extremely accessible content. It might be technical, academic. I don't have a PhD, but I think I understand it, I hope. And yeah, I just really appreciate it, and I very much hope it gets funded beyond this, because I think the intelligence in the room, the sort of data, evidence, the lived experiences we can draw off and feed into to build a really good sort of vision for where we want to get to. I think local authorities would definitely love to kind of be part of that roadmap.
Amazing, thank you very much indeed. Great. Wonderful. Just got time for maybe one or two other comments, I think. You've got your hand up very visibly there, so we'll go to you next. I think there's a microphone on its way. Thank you.
It's really close to 2 mics then. Yeah, so Henry Russell from Russell Regen. So I'm not too far away from here, just up in Lancashire. I'm a regenerative farming and food systems consultant. And just starting with the positives, so I found AFN brilliant. Love the digest, love the webinars. Thank you for funding my Flex Fund recently, which is about mapping agroecology locally. My one sort of piece of feedback that I'd offer is that what I've been hearing over the last couple of days has been quite rational and heady for me. And I would like to hear a bit more about the sort of the things that actually drive people, which are their values, needs, interests, fears. So it's like the inner world to go with the outer world. So I'd just like to see a little bit more of that. There has been a bit of it on the panels, but I think that to go with the targets that we're looking to achieve, we really need to attend to that other side. So that's my piece.
Thank you very much. Yeah. There's a lot to reflect on in terms of linking back to your comment about money and what you were saying, Dominic, about the subsystem and the system beyond that. And so I suppose we've got how the food system fits in the bigger system, but also how the food system actually impacts on our inner worlds that are maybe not something that we always bring to conversations like this, particularly coming maybe from the academic side. We don't tend, we're sort of taught to not engage with those parts of ourselves. So I think that's a really interesting point. Thank you. There's been a few people mentioning the digests and the webinars and newsletters. I just wanted to shout out to Jez. I'm sure I saw you a moment ago. Yeah, Jez, about there. Do you want to say anything, Jez? Do you want to say anything, Jez? Or we just wanted to give you a big round of applause, really, because whenever I get those emails, which is like, all you need to know about this 600-page report in 5 bullet points, I'm always like, oh, thank goodness. So thank you so much, Jez. Yeah, brilliant. Did you want to say anything? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. It's been really nice the last couple of days having loads of people come up to me that I haven't met in person but know my face because of the webinars. So it's been really nice meeting lots of people. I was just going to ask the panel and everyone in the room, I don't know, Sarah, if we've got time for this, but obviously, like we've been saying, AFN funding is due to come to an end in December, and I've had loads of conversations with people saying, oh, what's happening? We really don't want this to end. I'm convinced that by December we'll have probably 3,500 people in the network. I would really like to know, and I'm sure my AFN colleagues would really like to know, what you all think is most valuable going forward, if we're able to get funding, if we're able to morph AFN into something else and really draw on the amazing network of people that we have. So I don't know if there's time for this, Sarah, but I feel like it's worthwhile given we've all got you in the room.
It does, yeah. Yeah, so certainly our UKRI funding comes to an end this year, but we love doing this and we love talking with all of you, and we've had a lot of great feedback. We'd love to carry on. We are looking at different options for funding, but if you've got any ideas or loads of money, then let us know. So yeah, unless you've got, does anybody want to comment on that or stick it on your piece of paper, that's wonderful, thank you. Brilliant. So I think we need to wrap up because I know Emma is going to be ready to go soon. So I think what we're going to do now is just going to go back along the panel, starting with India, just to reflect on your reflections on this conversation. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. That's the one. The yellow one is a good one. Yeah.
Lovely. Is this working? Yes. So a lot of you have been talking about the people who are missing in the room. And I think I'm going to just kind of throw a question back at everyone, which is, what is the benefit to them for coming into the room? And really try and evaluate that. So Dominic obviously touched on this from a remuneration perspective, but there are lots of other sort of reasons that people might want to be engaging with these sorts of networks. What kind of value can we offer them? So I kind of think back to when I joined the AFN Network as a champion. The only reason that the AFN had someone from industry in that section, I think I might have been the only industry person who applied, or maybe there was 2 of us that year, was because I had aspirations for research, and so it was a good stepping stone for me. But if the industry person or group or whatever it is doesn't have an aspiration towards research, what can you offer them in return for their insights? Because otherwise there's a level of almost extraction that Dominic touched on, that you're taking information and experience from them without giving them anything back. I mean, maybe you're giving them the transport to get here, but that just puts them back at exactly the same point that they were, and they've lost that time. And if you're talking about farmers, they're often very time poor, particularly sort of leading up to harvest time, or livestock farmers, as you know, it's all year round. So I think, yeah, just making it really clear what the value proposition is for them. If you want them in the room, make it of benefit to them.
Great point. That's well said. Thank you.
Hopefully you can hear me. Excellent point. Everything India said, perfect. What I would like to reflect on from this session is all the asks we have from the early careers as well. Because again, a lot of these events take a lot of time, of course, as evidenced by the excellent work by the ops team as well. But there has to be a balance between what we're asking the early careers, not just academics, but industry, to commit their time and effort to, and then balancing that with what are the requirements for advancing in that particular career set. Because a lot of that is coming from two very different things and then hoping that those values connect. So in terms of the point made on values as well, what we need to have is that for scaling up, not just for the AFN going forward, is that we're scaling up those values. And that is currently a major disconnect across the entire system. So if we're asking ECRs to put in a lot of their time into boards and networks, it is potentially taking time away from their costed in time. And that has to come from their real lives. So I think there is the balance between having a life and making sure personal well-being is prioritized, committing time and effort and mental energy to networks and efforts they really care about, while still doing all the other work that leads to the papers, grants, and things that you need to then get hired in the route that you're in. And currently those three are very, very different things. And if that is not accounted in all of the efforts we're part of, then a lot of really, really excellent people will burn out really badly. And then that is value and effort we're losing from the space that we need.
A great point. Thank you very much, Saher.
I guess to put it briefly, I would just say that any transition of the food system, it cannot be just without including the voices of the poor and the voices of the people that are living in food insecurity. So, salute to AFN, and I hope the work long continues.
Very much. Absolutely well said. Oh, it's the other one actually.
Yeah. Okay. So I think they've said it all. I'm just going to say, like Saher said, to keep the conversation going. And beyond the AFN, I'm hoping that the AFN metamorphose to something like this, and we can continue the conversation. And the main thing about progressing in your career is, I think for me, that I've learned is to continue the conversation, talk to people for every opportunity that you get. You never know who you might talk to, and you might want to get back to about something. Okay, I want to do this. So I would say talk to as much people as you meet, and of course you'll find the opportunity to always need people along the way. For me, if there is one thing this journey has taught me, is research needs collaboration, and I think today one thing we've learned is the need to collaborate, is the need for collectivity in getting the UK to net zero, and we cannot stop the conversation here. We have to continue talking. So yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Great points. Yeah, excellent. Wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, really great points about having the right people in the room. Thank you for all your suggestions, and do write any more down on those sheets as well. And I think certainly having these connections in person at an event like this is fantastic. And I know many of you are on the member database, and we can see that's being very well used. So certainly go ahead and use that more as you leave, and make sure get in touch with people that you've met here. Don't hesitate to just send an email to somebody saying, hello, I think we met, do you want to have a half-hour Zoom sometime, just have a chat and brainstorm. Definitely encourage you to reach out to people that you've met here or people that you see on the membership database. If they've joined, that's probably because they want to connect with other people. So definitely carry on this outside of this room here. And we hope that the information that's coming out is helpful, but also we really value your inputs. I think that's very well said. What is the value to people of inputting? The time and effort that you guys have put in today and yesterday, the time and effort that you've put into responding to consultations that we've sent out about the research priorities and policy priorities in the past. And I just want to sort of pitch really for your input to the roadmap process over the next few months, and try to emphasise the value that we see in your input, that the DEFRA Agri-Food Roadmap Workshop last week, everybody agreed very strongly that we need strong leadership, we need less uncertainty, particularly from the farmers' side. Really the uncertainty is a major problem. How do we get strong leadership? Well, we all have to agree on something in order for that leadership to have an impact. And so I think, for our side, our vision for this roadmap process, which involves all these different voices coming in to shape the priorities for research and policy that we need to get to net zero with all these co-benefits, is to have these different voices and this document which really sets out what we think should happen, and that should then have that mandate to then help with that strong leadership that can then go and use that. So really look forward to working with you on that in the next few months. And I'm going to wrap this panel up, and really a huge thank you to all of you for sharing so vulnerably as usual and so openly with your experiences. And thank you all for your comments and criticisms and great ideas and support. So thank you all very much indeed. Thank you.